what's left is one last chance. Pray that he's still out there. Somewhere. Mad Max 2.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Malice Reviews. We are obviously heading on with the Mad Max franchise here, and once again, guest starring with me is Erin Romeo Moonberg. Hello.
Hello.
And we are having camera issues because technology.
Yes,
You can't have anything without nice things wanting to just go bust on us.
we just can't have nice things.
So then we're going to try and time this as best as possible. We are going to try for the 5 minutes or under for the plot synopsis of Road Warrior. So here it goes. Max Rakatansky, but by the way, I'm humiliated that I forgot his last name last time, is yet again on the road still. He has apparently not totally stopped since the incident that killed his family and caused him to hunt down the biker gang, and including Toe Cutter and Johnny the Boy. In this particular instance, it appears to have been at least a handful of years since then. Max, while still on the road, constantly trying to get whatever fuel he can find wherever he can find it, happens upon a facility which is pumping up petrol all the time. However, he is not part of the people that are down there, and they are already under constant attack by another gang of roaming mobsters who wish to take all of the fuel, whether or not they have to kill everyone who is currently protecting it. Max manages to save one of the people that they send off one morning, who were supposed to head off to try and find a vehicle to help them escape the facility with the tanker of fuel, to which Max brings the person back with the hope of gaining fuel for himself, but in the process the man dies. Max still around when the gang members come back from their marauding, with most of the people that they sent out dead, a few captured, is forced to become their new and only salvation because he happened to see a semi-tanker a few miles back and could possibly get it up and running again. With the help of the gyro captain, who he encountered slightly before the base, he is able to get the truck going, bring it back to the facility, but then tries to leave on his own, which in the end costs him both his car and his dog. The gyro captain manages to save him one more time, brings him back to the base where he's patched up, and then proceeds to say that he will run the truck in order to help the others escape the facility with their lives, and get the main ire of the evil gang outside. And on-road combat ensues, and that's most of the picture. I think that's about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Far less back and forth going on in this movie. It's a much simpler story, but at the same time not any less exciting because it's massively action-packed.
Yeah, it's no less of a. It seems like the more they simplified their story, the more complicated the action on screen became.
Oh yes, and they seem to also have had a lot more money to throw at it since last time because, well, I don't know about U.S., but for sure in Australia, Mad Max was a huge success.
Hmm.
And also probably helped by the fact that it's an indie film, they didn't have people trying to censor the film. So they were able to release it as is, even in Australia at the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's pretty wild. And this one really steps it up. It's more action, more violence, a lot more just nastiness going on.
Far more dystopia.
Uh-huh.
There
It's
doesn't seem to be
actually
much of the old world anymore.
it's actually apocalyptic. This is
Mm-hmm.
this is we're now into the post-apocalypse. The earlier film, Randy, who's my boyfriend, asserted that the earlier film, the first film, was actually a dystopia because there is a government, but it's not very run very well. It's kind of falling apart, and it's taking itself too seriously. But I mean, the government is, and that's what makes it more of a dystopia. This one, there is no real government except for the chieftains of the two warring tribes.
Essentially,
So.
yes.
So we've descended into that level of chaos.
Just walk away, and your lives will be spared. To which also I will add that while the Toe Cutter was in a very bad boy rugged kind of way, an interesting and semi-charming kind of character, and by the way, he's a Shakespearean actor. The new main villain, Lord Humongous, is by no means a charming person. He wears a
Mm-hmm.
hockey mask. He has what look to be possibly burn scars on the back of his head, which also pulses when he's very angry and using a lot of his strength. He
Mm-hmm.
is decked out in this really strange leather outfit. The best way to describe it is leather shorts with boots and a body harness
Mm-hmm.
with a neck brace and a hockey mask.
Yeah.
And that's about it. It's just a really weird look. It kind of stands out.
He also is able to have Wes chained to his vehicle, and then sets
Yes.
him loose towards the end. Finally, he
Well,
refers to
for
Wes
a
as
certain
the
portion of it, yes. Wes gets obviously very angry when I'm not entirely sure who to think that is riding saddle with him, but an obvious captive by the fact that they're on leash and chain
Mm,
most of the time.
I would, I would pretty much go ahead and say that that's his little love toy.
Little butt
You
buddy,
know, yeah,
more or less.
it's you know,
And
it's
yeah, after an accident with a deadly sharp um,
boomerang.
boomerang, that particular person then is up dead, and Wes is very distraught.
Mm-hmm.
And for a good portion of the rest of the film, he's on chains whenever they come near the city, letting Lord Humongous keep a very close eye on him.
Yeah. So. Hmm.
So very interesting little villains. Also, I would note that despite the way they treat people outside of their main group, I noticed that there's quite a few women in the group this time as well.
Yeah, there is. There does seem to be like obviously both groups have their own, have women or female characters who they do stuff. They don't just sit around, and let all the men do all the fighting and everything.
Hmm.
Both tribes, even though obviously Lord Homungous's tribe sees women as more property, they still employ like female mercenaries and stuff like that. So
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
yeah.
the main scene where Lord Humongous is doing a lot of his talking, if you actually look in the background, you see a gal decked in full leathers with purple hair in the
Mhm.
background. I mean,
Yep.
they're all there.
Yeah. It's, insanity does not discriminate against race, class, or gender.
Mm-hmm. There you have all kinds of weird little people on both sides.
I'm assuming, and I'm pretty sure that the person on the bike behind Wes, I don't know, I'm pretty sure that character actually has a name or has a reference
I
at
don't know
least.
who that particular character is. I would have to do a
But
lot of digging.
anyway, it looked like a male character, and it seems like it doesn't really matter what gender you are, like as a slave. It matters what personality you have. Like if you have a weak personality, then you're more likely to become enslaved and treated harshly. Whereas if you have a stronger personality, if you have a stronger will, and you're willing to fight your way through the ranks, then you become more of a full-fledged member of society.
Or at the very least,
So,
if you have enough guts to at least fight a little bit, you'll at least get one of the generic outfits from the main background groups.
yeah.
But then you can probably work your way from there too, and gradually become your own kind of character, coming up with your
Mhm.
own outfits and so forth.
Yeah.
There seems to be a kind of weird ranking in that way.
Yeah. There seems to be, you see the people with the helmets and the masks on and the glasses that they conveniently have their faces obscured, obviously, so that if they need to, they can switch out stunt doubles and actors without having to have like a whole troop of people,
There's also some
have.
other face mask guys too, here and
Mhm.
there. But then there's a few standout ones that are in the front of the crowd, so they're just kind of all scattered in all different directions.
Yeah, but anyway, those are probably like the more of the peons of the group, people who
Mm-hmm.
are trying to get noticed and stuff. So,
Or at least have done well enough to keep themselves from getting turned into butt buddies.
mhm.
Or
Yeah.
just shot in sight, for that matter, too.
Mhm.
I also noticed that there's a bit more wear and tear on the Max outfit this time. I believe there's no longer a badge on his outfit.
Yeah, I didn't see one.
And I paid a little bit more attention. This time we got some close up of his hands, and his gloves are all beaten to shit.
Mhm.
Like half the
He
fingers are missing, and the
well,
knuckles have worn through.
yeah, the fingers are missing for a very specific reason. It's so that he has the digits, the three primary digits of the hand, free to load his gun.
I guess that's sort of true too.
Yeah, so he has more dexterity that way. Whereas if you have completely gloved hands, we see later in the film, if you have completely gloved hands, you're kind of screwed. If you get, you know, Molotov cocktail poured all over you along with fire, and then you try to beat
Yeah,
them out, and it doesn't work.
yeah, that
So,
leads to awkward business.
mhm.
Um, we do have a hero, technically a good guy group or a hero group, if you will. Lots of whites I notice too to help
Yeah,
contrast the two groups. And despite
there's
being a good guy, Max is the only good guy in black.
yeah, exactly. Like everyone on one side is wearing either white, yellow, or pinkish color, and like black,
And a
red.
little bit of sky blue, yeah.
Mhm. That's all on Lord Humongous's side. Is
And
the
Lord
darker
Humongous' side is
colors.
mostly black with reds, and actually there's one exception. There's the one guy that's all decked out in pink.
Yeah.
You get to see him for just a little bit close up before his car set on fire.
Mhm.
So that had to be an interesting little character if we had more time with him.
Could have been interesting. He could have been a traitor too, or he could have stolen another person's clothes and worn them. Or
But
perhaps he
I
was.
believe he had pink in his hair. I believe he had even a pink beard and mustache, didn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, he was.
It,
Even his hair to his clothes, just decked out in pink with a pink spray painted car.
yeah, and there's also pretty much a very practical reason for that is during the stunts and everything, it allows the audience to distinguish who's who.
Yes, that's the
Mhm.
other thing too, is that they have very distinguishable cars and vehicles from
Mhm.
even far away. It's no longer this group of bikers; they have very unique looking vehicles. You get the kind of dune buggy esque vehicles. You got some cop vehicles, some very chrome covered vehicles, and then you got the weird. outlandish, almost double-decker kind of vehicle for Lord Humongous, as he's more or less sitting where the roof should be,
Mhm.
and yet he's got a wheel and everything.
Yeah. It's
You got a couple of trucks with the triple dart guns and
yeah,
stuff
and
like that.
it's you see a lot of spikiness too on some of the villain cars too.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much on like on the rig. They have it on the rig for the good guys, like these large
The
pointing
very large, almost
swords.
blade-like spikes, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, very interesting little designs, and obviously in particular that rig was made for a better defense because they really needed that thing to last a while.
Yeah. It needs to go as far as it can, as fast as it can, and needs to last as long as it can.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole point behind the distraction behind the decoy.
Yep,
So, mhm.
it stands out, and that's what it really needed to do. So I guess we should probably move into thoughts about the movie. So favorite moments then?
My favorite moment is the when they're racing down, they're in the decoy semi,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like pushing the feral kid out onto the hood to recover the last shell of the shotgun. The two are together forever now.
In a big mess that went kaboom.
Yeah.
It's also the biggest splits either one of them have ever done.
Yeah, there is that.
um. So yeah, there's a couple of moments that I quite liked in this movie. I guess the one I really have to point out is I've the overall chase is really damn good. You don't see really manic chases like that. I mean, you do see car chases, but never to the extent that Mad Max is done in almost every movie.
There's a lot of manic, chaotic energy in
Yeah,
this
and
car
especially in
chase.
this one and the next one with these really huge, long chase pieces.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but this one in particular, there were some stunts done. I don't know if you can remember it in particular, but there's one where there's a guy on a bike.
Yeah.
By the way, that was a real guy that did that flip.
Mhm. You could
Uh,
tell it's not a dummy. It's got weight to it.
He's got
It's
weight
got
to it,
weight
and
to
he,
it.
if you watch it very closely, you can see him like do a semi-flailing panic because he did not let go of the bike in time, which is why he flew like that.
Oh wow.
He hit they had set up a huge amount of like cardboard boxes for him to land on,
Mhm.
but he hit them too hard because again he didn't let go of the bike soon enough, so he couldn't tuck and roll.
Oh.
So he was injured and actually couldn't continue filming after that, but that was probably his big scene anyways, so lucky
Yeah.
him on that.
No. We appreciate his sacrifice.
Yes,
This is one of the reasons why I think, stuntmen and stuntwomen are finally being recognized in the industry.
oh yes, because some of the risky stuff they had to do, and especially for this movie, there's a number of other stunts I could pinpoint out that it's just like, yeah, there's at least one real person involved with that crash. Mm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm not sure how many people were involved with it, but that crash with the scene that you mentioned, there had to be
Mhm.
unless the vehicle was parked and they made that semi somehow go faster than a normal semi goes. there had to have been that car must have been moving, so there must have been somebody in it, and just the way that thing got obliterated. I mean, there
Yeah.
was practically nothing left of Humongous's car when that crash happened.
It's stuff like this that when people at my workplace have been denouncing the new Mad Max as, oh well, it's just Death Race, there's nothing special about it. It's just like, have you not seen the original Mad Max movies? They are basically giant death races
Their
of
big
one kind or
conclusions for the last
another.
two in particular, yeah, they turned into big giant death races because they're about to get fucked up.
The whole point is about they're chasing each other, trying to grab fuel
Mm-hmm.
and everything, and it's just like that's the big prize.
They're trying to
We
get
had
fuel, or they're going to try and get people who can provide them almost endless fuel. So then, it's a little bit ahead of schedule, but worst scene then, I guess.
worst scene.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the more boring scenes. Probably when they're getting prepped for leaving on the night. And I thought it was, it's kind of weird because you see lights and it's a lit area in the pitch black. Um, yeah, and it's a bunch of people welding stuff essentially, just
Mm-hmm.
working, trying to get rid of everything. Probably setting up the explosives for when they finally blow up the refinery here.
Yeah.
And my specifically about that scene is Papagallo, his confrontation with Max.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like, come on, dude. You
Max has
can't
done
just
more
let
than
him
enough for
go.
you already at this point, you know?
Yeah, he's done enough for you.
He didn't need to be a part of this to begin with.
Yeah.
And then he has to go up and bring up family.
Mhm. It doesn't make Papagallo look like a very good person. I mean,
No.
he's not evil. He's not evil like Lord Humongous is, but
But it
he's
does make
willing
him kind
to.
of look like a bit of a dick.
Yeah, he is a manipulative person, so you
Mm-hmm.
almost wonder if there's kind of a cult kind of personality surrounding him, which is probably why people started turning against him so easily after Lord Humongous made his offer.
Yeah.
Because, Lord Humongous makes his offer to let them go, and in
And actually,
exchange,
that'll get into my worst scene, which is where they're fighting with him, trying to figure out what they're going to actually do, and all he has is nothing but talk, and when you need to protect the fuel, and it just kind of rings hollow. Even as you listen to him, he kind of rings a little bit hollow.
yeah, it's just like, well, why do you need the fuel? It's just like, obviously he's planning this huge long journey, so that's why they need the fuel to carry it away.
But why
So,
do they
and
need
if
so much of it? I mean, if they did it right, they could probably conserve how many vehicles they use and get out of there fine, and leave like a huge chunk of that behind.
yeah, and if
But
they
he's
leave,
being extremely greedy.
mhm, and if they leave, if they leave the refinery open without blowing it up, then that leaves the bad guys with enough fuel to pursue them to their
That is
paradise.
true too. And the
So
last thing you need
they
is
had to blow
give
it up. They had to take what they could for this long journey.
yeah, and the
So
last thing you want to do is give a bunch of kill crazies enough fuel to go wherever the hell they want, because that could usually end up in a very bad place for somebody else, if not yourself.
it's just irresponsible. So obviously he does have a point in that they do have to protect the fuel. They do have to keep the bad guys from getting the fuel, because if they get it, then there's really no safe place for them.
Mm-hmm.
For Papagallo and his crew and whoever else happens to get entangled with Lord Humongous. So they can't just run away, essentially. And I guess that does bring up the whole point of Mad Max running away.
Because he
Because like,
just does not want to get entangled, and the faster he can get out of there, the less likely Lord Humongous is going to have a chance to catch up with him.
and of course Papagallo's going to be pissed off. He's like, well, we can't just leave.
We got all
So
these
what
people
makes
to
you
worry
think you
about. Why
should
should you
just
be
leave?
the one
Yeah.
leaving on us?
I mean, yeah, you've done all this stuff for us, but we still have all this. We're still in a shitstorm here. You said you'd come and help us.
And Max
So,
is like, I already did my helping. Bye.
yeah, so it's, the more you get into it, the more of a tangled mess it is, and it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
well, they're intertwined already. You might as well follow through with everything, especially after the interceptor's gone, after his dog is killed. He really has nothing else left. He doesn't even really have his health left.
Yeah, he's
You
pretty
know.
bad. He's even more bad than he was at the end of the last movie. Which, by the way, for those of you who have not seen this movie yet, he spends most of his time with a leg cast on, or not a leg cast, a leg brace on for this movie.
Mhm. Yep. There's a
So
lot of
his leg is
little.
still a bit messed up. So he's kind of got a weak leg, and now he's been busted in the face and all
Yeah.
this other extra crap that he really didn't need.
Yeah. There's no hospitals out in the wasteland. Well, except for whatever Papagallo's crew provides.
Apparently,
They've
must
got
have
like
somebody with
little.
some sort of medical training on there
Yeah.
too. Apparently.
The captain's girl is her name.
Well,
The
there's
the
her, and
girl
there seems to
the
be
girl
some
with the
other
big
guy she was helping. She
ponytail.
seemed to be more of a nurse at best.
Yeah, she was like holding like the little I want to say it's a squeezy bottle. That's not what it is. It's like a
The
handheld
the the
respirator
air mask.
system. Yeah, the air mask to allow people to breathe when they can't breathe on their own. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Help with little things like that. Yeah.
Mhm. So,
So I guess it's now rating time.
yeah.
So you want to go first, or shall I?
I can go first. We're doing what is it like very poor miss to
Bad, poor,
excellent?
average, good, excellent.
I would say that this is I would say this is excellent actually. Just because of the stunt work done. It is a very simple story. But it's very kind of a truth to form type deal with the story. It's very it's good versus evil. It's society, kind of trying to reestablish itself, but it can't quite get a hold. It needs
Especially
space
with
to
the
breathe.
chaos that's literally barking at their door with arrows.
Yeah, it needs society can grow. It just needs a place to grow at, and unfortunately, it can't do it at the refinery. So they've got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Something's got to give. There's a chaotic energy to it, chaotic manic energy to it. The characters, even though they have very, again, they don't even have real names. They're just known as, the captain's girl or the feral kid. But we
And
all
Wes,
know
or
what
the
we're talking.
gyro captain, and
Yeah,
so
the
forth.
gyro captain. We all know who we're talking about when we refer to these characters.
Yes, exactly. And you kind of know how their characters work.
Yeah,
Like
you
Gyro
know that.
Captain is this weird kind of lanky guy, but he's kind of a bit of fun when you get on his right side.
Yeah, and everybody's conflicted in this. Like, even Wes. Wes is conflicted with his obedience to Lord Humongous to his desire for revenge. And in the
Mm-hmm.
end, it costs both him and Lord Humongous their lives.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm. So,
Both their mixed desires for revenge and fuel is what caused their ultimate demise.
yeah, it's greed and it's revenge. Or wrath, I guess you could say. If you're
Mm-hmm.
going with the 7 deadly sins.
So my ranking actually kind of matches you on this one. This is excellent movie. And again, we will say that there's not much plot, but it's only because they only needed so much plot in order to make this thing work. There are a few fluff moments, but the fluff moments are to actually do the right thing, like develop characters a little bit, move the plot along, um, get out what the confrontation is in the forefront, and figure out what they're going to be doing next. Doing logical, smart things, as opposed to just wasting our time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The stunt work, I don't know if I've ever seen another movie that did the stunt work that. Again, most of this franchise, you hardly ever see this kind of stunt work ever in movies, but in particular with this one, I think they did some really risky shit. And even though some of it ended up injuring people for the point that they couldn't come back for a couple of weeks to a couple of months, the fact is that none of them walked away, were carried away dead or anything. All of them managed to, at least in some form or fashion, at least walk away. And the fact that a couple of these people looked like they should have gotten fucking killed is kind of
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact I mentioned to you, but we haven't mentioned to this crowd. I've seen what their camera cases were for this movie when they would set up cameras, both either nearby vehicles or inside of vehicles or near explosions and stuff. They
Mhm.
looked like little freaking domed armadillos with a plexiglass window to look out of. They needed to protect the hell out of these poor cameras, otherwise they would have probably gotten maybe only half the footage they did. Cause that was some really intense shit. We mentioned the guy who did the flip. We mentioned the Lord Humongous crash. There's also the couple of the car crashes and other stunts that happened that just you can't fake that. There had to have been at least one person in there, and it must have been a risky job that day.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure a few stunt actors in Australia grew a couple gray hairs.
Yeah. And probably shattered quite a few bones.
Oh, quite a few.
Mhm.
I would also add that I found out doing some of the background work for these episodes now that Mr. Miller, Mr. George Miller, he actually started off his main career was going to be a doctor in a hospital, by the way.
Oh wow.
And the reason why he was driven to make the Mad Max series is, first of all, he kept seeing so many car casualties or car accident people coming into the hospital that he had to take care of,
Mhm.
in all these weird and strange and really nasty ways that people would get hurt inside of vehicles when they would collide.
Yep.
But then I can't remember for sure where it was, but sometime in the 70s there was actually a area that got cut off from any kind of fuel, and then like
Mhm.
almost every kind of motorist or person that needed a vehicle just went crazy for a couple months until fuel came back.
Oh.
So essentially, his idea of the post-apocalypse was essentially taking that but making it worldwide.
I know in 1974 there was, or at least I believe it was 1974, there was a massive fuel crisis. There was real fears that fuel was running out and there was no more gas for the cars. I believe that was
That might have been some, but
1974,
it might have
maybe
hit
early
the particular areas
1970s.
a bit harder than others, maybe.
Could be.
So that's probably some of where that came from. So the really heavy on bikers and motorists probably went absolutely batshit crazy, which is kind of where he came from with the idea of how the world fell apart.
Mhm.
The fuel didn't come back. So yeah, that's how he got involved with this, and that's also the funny thing is when ever you saw any kind of injury or something there, the director, Mr. George Miller, was like one of the first guys to come up to the stunt actor and start checking them out, trying to figure out what was wrong. Because again, he pretty much was a doctor. He had done this stuff before. He has done
Mhm.
fractures. He has done car accidents. Everything.
Yeah.
So it's almost kind of sort of reassuring that your director is actually a medical expert on hand too. If something looked like it went wrong, he'll instantly be jumping up from behind the camera and running over to check you out.
And perhaps hack off a limb. Bones.
He'll pull out the saw from Mad Max 1 and go, okay, hold still.
This will only take 5 minutes.
It'll
Believe
only take
me,
you
I
5 minutes.
know.
Hold still and bite on this. uh,
And the
but yeah,
cat wants attention.
the cat wants attention, and I think we're technically done with this for tonight.
Yeah,
So,
I'm at 34 minutes right now, so
so there might be a little bit of fluff here and there cut out, anyways.
yeah.
But yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you, everybody who's going to be watching this particular episode, and we will see you next time for the Thunderdome.
Thunderdome.
Oh, Aaron, can't we just get beyond Thunderdome?
We will eventually.
We will after next week,
Yep.
and then it'll be Fury Road.
Yes, it will. So excited.
Alrighty, see you all next time.